Giants, given last rites by many in December, are the Super Bowl champs in February.
How did this even happen? How did we get here? The 2011 New York Giants came away with the Lombardi Trophy after quite possibly one of the luckiest runs in NFL history. Granted, this Super Bowl didn't have the famous helmet catch of 2007. However, this Super Bowl is more about the events that unfolded before the big game and how unspeakably lucky the Giants were in getting there. Now, don't get me wrong, winning any Super Bowl takes a little bit of luck and a few favorable bounces and calls going your way. But again, the Giants' 2011 run seemed to rewrite the definition of what luck truly meant. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about.
Here we go.
The Giants' 2011 season was the definition of mediocre, finishing with a record of 9-7, barely even scraping into the playoffs. They scored 394 points on the offensive side of the ball, while giving up 400 points on the defensive side of the ball. Statistically speaking, they were the 9th ranked offense and the 25th ranked defense. This basically means that they had a pretty good offense, ranking in the top 10, but they had a very, very mediocre defense, ranking in the back half of the league. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the games in the regular season to see how they got these ranks. The Giants started off the 2011 season relatively hot, sporting a 6-2 record through their first 8 games, even defeating the New England Patriots in a one-score game in Week 9, who they would of course go on to play in the Super Bowl. Other notable games during this first half include their game against the Cardinals, who they beat in a one-score game with a final of 31-27. Their game against the Buffalo Bills, who they beat 27-24, and their win against the then 0-7 Miami Dolphins, who they beat 20-17. Now, the nature of one-score games is that they can truly go either way. One lucky play or even a lucky call can sway the game in either direction. And in retrospect, the Giants losing just one of these games would have resulted in them missing the playoffs entirely. While this isn't necessarily the greatest measure of luck in the Giants' case, it's still something to consider when covering this extremely tight season where one game truly is the difference. The second half of the season wasn't as kind to the Giants. After starting 6-2, they stumbled and lost 5 out of their last 8 games, finishing with the aforementioned 9-7 record. This is where the luck kind of starts. Heading into the remaining 4 weeks of the season, the Giants were set to play the division rival Dallas Cowboys 2 times. In what was already an extremely tight division race, the stakes were raised even higher as the Giants would essentially have to win both of those matchups to punch their ticket into the playoffs. Week 14 saw the first of these 2 matchups, in what would end up being a back-and-forth, high-scoring game. The Giants and Cowboys traded touchdowns and field goals all game until the very end. The Cowboys then had the ball in the final seconds of the game, and their attempt at a game-tying 47-yard field goal was blocked by Jason Pierre-Paul. To put this into perspective, only about 1.5 to 2% of field goals are blocked in a given season, an extremely rare feat that usually depends on being in the right place at the right time, or more simply, luck. The Giants would then go on to beat the Cowboys in the final game of the season in a winner-go-home matchup, however in much more anticlimactic fashion, defeating them 31-14 to punch their ticket into the postseason. This is where the real exploration of how lucky the Giants truly were comes into play. Going into the postseason, the Giants were written off in every matchup, and that makes sense on paper when looking at the numbers. Their first matchup saw them going up against the 10-6 Falcons, who had the number 7 ranked offense behind big names like Matt Ryan, Michael Turner, Roddy White, Julio Jones, and of course Hall of Famer Tony Gonzalez. This Falcons offense averaged 25 points a game and were going up against a Giants defense that was mediocre at best. Surely the Falcons go in and put enough points on the board to at least compete. They started off the scoring in an unconventional way, bagging a safety by way of intentional grounding, putting them on the board with 2 points early in the game. And that's it. That's the whole score log for the Falcons, seeing them lose with a final score of 24-2. The Falcons punted the ball away 7 times and turned it over on downs 3 times, and simply could not get anything going. How convenient on one of the better offenses in the NFL to have their worst game of the season when it mattered the most. Now, is this a case of direct luck? Not necessarily. But the Giants certainly were on the fortunate end of a game where the other team decided not to show up offensively. The divisional round of the playoffs saw the Giants going into Lambeau Field to take on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. This truly was a David versus Goliath matchup on paper. The Packers held the number 1 ranked offense, putting up 560 total points on the year, averaging out to 35 points a game. The specific stat I want to hone in on is the turnovers. The Packers had only 14 turnovers all year, with only 6 of them being from lost fumbles. Why do I bring this up? Well, that's because the Packers decided to cough up the ball 4 times in this game, with 3 fumbles and 1 interception. They hadn't fumbled more than twice in one game all year and averaged less than 1 turnover per game. In the one game where it mattered the most, they can't seem to hold on to the ball. Just unreal timing and unreal luck yet again for the Giants, who would go on to win this game quite handily, 37-20. I'm also in here in the editing room, and there's actually a couple things in this game that I forgot about. Yes, the Packers did have a call that should have been a fumble that wasn't ruled a fumble on their side, so I'll give the Giants that, and that they weren't lucky 100% of the time. The Packers also blocked one of the Giants' field goals, but that's kind of a wash because Green Bay went for a onside kick on that same drive, which got them that blocked field goal. So I'm just not even going to count that one. But adding on to the Giants' luck in this game, the Packers had so many dropped passes, it's ridiculous. Not to mention this lucky Giants Hail Mary at the end of the half. Like, what are we even talking about here? Like, I totally forgot this even happened. All right, I think that's about it for this game, though. Let's keep it moving. The NFC Championship game was perhaps the game where you could truly say the Giants were one of the luckiest teams in NFL history. The Giants were set to face off against the San Francisco 49ers, who had the 11th ranked offense, which was slightly worse than the Giants. But they also had the number 2 ranked defense, with great players all over the field, such as Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, Justin Smith, Dante Whitner, and more. On paper, this was a good matchup, with a top 10 offense going up against a top 10 defense. What was it going to come down to? The Giants making a great offensive play, the 49ers making a key defensive stop? Yeah, turns out it was actually none of these things. Here's where I believe the Giants' luck starts getting unbelievable. To start it off, Eli Manning throws what clearly should have been an interception if it wasn't for 2 49ers defenders running into each other in pursuit of the ball. Oh, but that doesn't just happen once. It happens twice. Like, are we serious? Granted, this doesn't guarantee that the 49ers would have scored points if they did end up getting interceptions, but the Giants were extremely lucky to get away with not having those passes picked off. How about this play late in the game, in what would have surely been a turning point, where the 49ers successfully stripped the ball and force a fumble on the Giants side of the field, only to have a premature whistle blown for forward progress being stopped. I'm sorry, but you cannot convince me that that was the right call. In real time, it was a bang-bang play and should have resulted in a fumble with the 49ers taking over on a very short field. And if these plays weren't enough to convince you, it gets even luckier for the Giants. Early in the fourth quarter, the 49ers were leading 14-10 and were set to receive the ball after the Giants went 3 and out. Weatherford punts it away to Kyle Williams. 49er fans, you know who this guy is and what's about to happen. And as Williams approaches the football, he decides last second to let it go. But hold up, it turns out that after review, the ball grazed the lint on his sock, leading to a muffed punt and a Giants recovery. Just unbelievable luck, you really can't make this up. And just a few plays later, the Giants would take advantage of this lucky gift and score a touchdown to give them the lead 17-14. Surely that was the apex of their luck, right? Well, that's where you'd be completely wrong. This game saw the 49ers tie the score at 17, which pushed the game into overtime. Both teams exchanged punts on their first drives, leading to a sudden death. Next score wins. The Giants got the ball for their second drive, and again, the 49ers defense stood strong and got a stop, just as they had been doing pretty much all game, or at least for the whole second half of the game. Weatherford again punts it away to guess who? Kyle Williams. He receives the ball and starts running, only to have the ball stripped away from him in a moment of poor ball security. I want to give a little more context that makes this situation look even more lucky. Kyle Williams was not the team's primary punt returner. That role belonged to Ted Ginn, who didn't play in this game due to injury. I think we're getting to the point where it's a little ridiculous now. This game could have gone and should have gone very differently. What if Ted Ginn played in this game? What if forward progress hadn't been called? What if the 49ers were able to secure the 2 interceptions that flew their way? This was a game of what ifs for the 49ers and a game of impossible fortune for the Giants. There wasn't much else left to do. The only thing left was to run the ball a few times to get in good position for the game-winning kick, which they made to move on to play the Patriots in that year's Super Bowl. The majority of the Giants' luck was definitely in the NFC Championship game, but that doesn't mean the Giants were on the fortunate side of things in the Super Bowl either. To start things off, they managed to get Tom Brady to throw an intentional grounding in the end zone, resulting in a safety. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call this luck more than the Giants just making a good play and pressuring Brady to get rid of the ball before he wanted to. Still though, they were fortunate to be in the spot on the field which allowed this to happen. Fast forward just a bit to the final minutes of the first quarter. The Giants have a nice drive going in the Patriots side of the field. Eli Manning gets the ball off to Victor Cruz, who catches it, but he has it stripped away for a fumble. Patriots ball, right? Not so fast. Because the Patriots had 12 men on the field, meaning the play didn't count, and the Giants retained possession. I think this is a pretty lucky play. Teams getting penalized for 12 men on the field isn't that common in the NFL. The Patriots were definitely one of those teams that took pride in not making mistakes and just playing good, clean football. The Giants would take advantage of this gift and score a touchdown to go up 9-0 in the first quarter. Fast forward to the third quarter where the Patriots managed to get a couple of scores and have the lead 17-12. The Giants had a decent drive going. 2nd and 9, Manning gets the ball off to Nix, who then gets the ball stripped away from him by the Patriots defender. Fortunately for the Giants, the ball took a favorable bounce and ended back up in their possession. If this ball just bounced the other way, we might be looking at a completely different game. The Giants would end up scoring a field goal on this drive, which they may not have had the chance to do so if the ball took a less favorable bounce. The next moment I wanted to highlight comes in the beginning of the fourth quarter. Patriots are leading 17-15 and driving down the field. On first down, Brady steps back to pass, gets out of a potential sack and extends the play, rolls right and launches downfield only to have it intercepted by a Giants defender. Let's rewind. This interception would never have even happened if Brady just took the sack. Or better yet, if the Giants' interior lineman was able to finish the job and get the sack himself. Again, the impossible fortune continues for the Giants. Later on in the fourth quarter, with only 4 minutes left, the Patriots were driving yet again, looking to put the game on ice. On second down, Brady throws the ball to an open Wes Welker, who drops the ball on granted what would have been a little tougher of a catch, but a catch that Welker normally makes. It hit his hands and he simply just could not come down with it. Another play where the Giants were fortunate, because there's a good chance that if Welker makes that catch, the Patriots go on to score. Fast forward to under a minute left in the fourth quarter. The Giants managed to score in their previous drive, taking the lead 21-17. Giving Brady one last chance to do what he has done so many times in his career: orchestrate a game-winning drive. Right off the bat, Brady goes deep on first down over the middle to Branch, who ends up dropping the ball on what probably should have been a catch. Now, I tried slowing it down, and the ball might have been tipped right before it got to Branch. It's extremely hard to tell, but you know what they say. If it hits you in the hands, you gotta make the catch. On the very next play, Brady throws it right to Hernandez, and the ball is dropped again. I mean, honestly, you just can't make this up. The NFL scriptwriters were going crazy on this one. Now, the game didn't end here. The Patriots would go on to convert a 4th and 16 to keep the game going, but dropped passes and sacks take time off the clock, time that the Patriots desperately needed in a game like this. That then leads us to the first play of the video, or the last play of the game, where the Giants would get lucky one more time. With only seconds left, Brady launches a Hail Mary into the end zone, where it was batted down, but nearly caught on the deflection by Gronkowski. If he was positioned just another foot forward, he might have had enough length to haul in this pass. Unfortunately though for the Patriots, this is where the game would end. The Giants beating them in another Super Bowl, giving them shades of Super Bowl 42 all over again. With that being said, I am not a Giants hater, nor am I a salty Patriots fan. I just thought it would be fun to explore the impossible amount of luck the Giants seem to get on their way to a Super Bowl victory. As I said before, luck is part of any championship run. It's inherently part of the game. I don't want to take anything away from the Giants. They took advantage of the opportunities that were given to them and made sure to take care of business when it mattered the most. However, it does make you wonder what would have happened if just one of those lucky events didn't go in their favor.